This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. For too long, women's serious midlife health issues have been trivialized, ignored, and met with a just deal with it attitude. Many of us have been made to feel ashamed or forgotten. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But here's the powerful truth. It's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI is not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic, founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. What sets MIDI apart? We are the only women's telehealth brand covered by major insurance companies, making high-quality expert care accessible and affordable. Our clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. We offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions, from hormonal therapies and weight loss protocols to lifestyle coaching and preventative health guidance. This isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will join our patients who feel seen, heard, and prioritized. You will find that our mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the health care they deserve. Because we believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
Everyone talks about summer like it's supposed to be carefree. But if this season brings up money stress, body stress, family stress, or social stress, that's real too. Growth therapy can help with that. Whether it's your first time in therapy or your 50th, Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits you, not the other way around. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person visits, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. And if something comes up, you can cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Grow accepts over 100 insurance plans, including Medicaid in some states. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/booknow to get started. That's growtherapy.com/booknow. growtherapy.com/booknow. Availability and coverage by state and insurance plan.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Welcome to True Crime to Go. What can I get for you?
I need a gun, I need a balloon, and I need a couple free hours.
Pull up to the second window and we'll see you next crime.
Welcome to True Crime to Go. I am John here with Jamie and what looks to be a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, this is an interesting story. I stumbled upon it last week and don't think we can make it into a full episode, so hopefully we can keep it concise enough to 10 minutes here. And I am just blown away that I didn't know about this already. Blown away.
All right, man. Well, why don't you get the ball rolling?
We're going to go back to January of 2018 in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, where people that lived in a fancy gated community woke up to some horrible news. A 71-year-old businessman named Alan Abrahamson had been found dead in a field near his neighborhood. He had suffered a fatal gunshot to his chest. It looked like their fancy neighborhood had been subject to a murder. There was no murder weapon, there was no shell casing, no signs of a struggle, and no suspect. There was no explanation for how somebody could come in, shoot him, and not leave any evidence behind. So they launched immediately a homicide investigation.
So let's get to know Alan Abrahamson a little bit. He appeared to have a comfortable life. Friends described him as an outgoing and a very personable human. He enjoyed golf, travel, spending time with family. Nothing around his public image suggested that he was in danger. So when investigators began looking into his final hours, surveillance footage showed him leaving his neighborhood before sunrise on January 25th. Later that morning, his body was discovered in a grassy area not far from the community entrance. So detectives quickly noticed several unusual details. The scene did not resemble a typical homicide. There were no indications that this was a robbery. His phone was still on his person. They found no evidence of a confrontation. Most importantly, there was no firearm. So in gun-related deaths, the weapon is often one of the most critical pieces of evidence, but there's no sign of a struggle. It's weird. It's like this just random shot happened out of nowhere, out of thin air.
Yeah, I don't know. You start to think about, I don't know, how could that happen? Was it a sniper?
Was it a snipe? Yeah.
Was somebody just able to get out of there that quickly without leaving a trace of another person even being there? Because nobody else was on the surveillance footage. As detectives searched for answers, they started looking at Abrahamson's electronic records. Months before his death, he had purchased a few weather balloons. Not one, but multiple weather balloons. He had also exchanged emails with a supplier asking detailed questions about balloon capabilities, payload limits, and flight characteristics. So, a sudden interest in weather balloons doesn't really mean anything, but it is kind of weird. We don't know that he had any related hobbies with meteorology or anything, but it wasn't like him. And the more they got into his online activity, it continued to be more and more weird. There were internet searches considering the relationship between suicide and life insurance, and there were searches related to whether suicide could occur without a weapon being present at the scene. So basically, what this would lead you to think is he wants life insurance to kick in, but he wants to find a way to do it himself without it being canceled out by it being a suicide.
Yeah, so one detective proposed a theory that initially sounded absurd. But what if there had never been a killer? What if he had somehow arranged for the weapon to disappear after his death? The idea seemed almost impossible, but detectives couldn't ignore the evidence, or lack thereof, when they were uncovering it. Investigators returned to the scene. This time, they noticed small items that had seemed insignificant earlier. There were pieces of string, there were rubber bands, tiny clues that didn't appear connected at first, but could be pointing to a very unconventional homicide/suicide. Forensic analysis revealed another unusual detail. A thin line of blood extended away from the wound across his clothing. Detectives wondered whether some kind of cord or string had been attached to him at the moment he was shot, and then it disappeared. So this theory was started making shape, and then it started to involve the weather balloons.
Yeah, so their report says that they believe Abrahamson may have attached a firearm to a weather balloon with a string and potentially some other materials. He discharged the weapon, shooting himself in the chest, but after he did so, the balloon carried away the evidence. So then you're left with a scene with somebody being shot, but there's no suspect, no casings, and no gun, so you can't show that's a suicide. It would appear to be a murder. So this led to detectives having to do their homework about weather balloons, and they found out all the questions he had, like what would this look like if it had happened? And what they found out didn't seem right. Not only was this possible, it was absolutely doable, and potentially it happened before. They had simulated the weather during that day, and they realized that the balloon could have gone as far out as to the ocean. And if that happened, they would never find the gun.
Yeah, they also found that this had happened like on television. So there's a CSI Las Vegas episode that featured a remarkably similar plot. In the story, a person staged a homicide by using balloons to remove a weapon from the scene. But police noticed that they also found a real-world case from years earlier involving a pretty comparable attempt. What initially sounded, at first like being completely absurd is turning out to be quite plausible.
Yeah, so this is what they landed on as the final theory, and the death was officially ruled a suicide. It was tough for family members to to accept this, of course, because they didn't know that he had been suicidal. There was no reason to believe that this would happen, but there's really no other option they could come up with about why this happened, especially when you include the fact that he was this fascinated by weather balloons, and they never found the weapon. They never found the balloon. All they have is surveillance footage of him being gone longer than he should have been and coming back, and then the string and the rubber bands. So I think more likely than not, this is what he did. We don't know if he learned about it on CSI. We don't know if he came up with it on his own, but this is the conclusion they came to. John, have you ever even considered this to be plausible? Suicide by gun balloon isn't something that we cover a lot on True Crime Cast.
Something I'd never thought about, but I think all the pieces fit together here, and it's probably what's happened.
I think it is too. There's really no other plausible solution unless we get more evidence. And I think once family saw all the pieces, they believed it as well. So this is certainly not a how-to of any kind, but it's a pretty fascinating story about people continuing to be, creative with the ways that they commit crimes in the day and age we have of technology. But this guy, obviously, it's a horrible, sad situation with him taking his own life. And since it was ruled a suicide, then life insurance could not be paid out. So his desired outcome didn't happen. He took his life anyway, and his family members lost him. So a sad situation all the way around, but a very fascinating look at the lengths people will go to.
Jamie, this was a really interesting one. I appreciate you bringing it to us.
It's been a crime story in 10 minutes or less.
Would you like crime with that?
You've listened to True Crime Cast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.